Well, thank you, Ali. So what I will do now is we have about 10 minutes. I would like to take this the opportunity of having Ali Babacan with us here to take a few questions, and I will ask you to be extremely short. It's questions. It's not a long comment. So who would like to ask a question to Mr. Babacan? Mr. Herr Jankovic from Austria. By the way, when we had the WPC in Austria in 2014, President Gül was the guest of honor of the World Policy Conference. So we have a long, when I say we, I mean WPC has a long story of friendship with Turkey, and we want to keep it alive.
There's no doubt about that, and we have of President Gül in Vienna. Mr. Babacan, amongst the many problems facing the world, not only Turkey, are minority problems. And there are many countries that have rather bigger or smaller minorities. And in Turkey, of course, we have the Kurdish problem. And you should be sure that nobody in Europe has the slightest sympathy for terrorist methods as they are applied by the PKK and similar groups. On the other hand, there will be a need to come to some kind of compromise, to some kind of arrangement with a rather large group, which is not only present in Turkey, also in Iraq and in Iran. So your strategy in that regard would be of great interest to us. Thank you.
Well, actually, we don't really have a Kurdish problem in Turkey. It's a PKK terrorist problem that we are going through in Turkey. Why? Because, first of all, the ruling party, AK Party, my party, is the party which gets the highest amount of support from the Kurdish citizens of Turkey. So we are the number one party as the ruling party, which gets the highest amount of support to the Kurdish population of Turkey. Plus, when we look just across the border in Iraq, Turkey and the KRG has now very good relations. And probably right now, Erbil-Ankara relations are better than Baghdad-Ankara relations nowadays. So I wouldn't call it a Kurdish problem. It's a terrorism problem. And we cannot label the terrorism problem by any ethnicity, by any religion or religious sect. And PKK is a terrorist organization which is officially recognized by EU, by US, and by other individual countries and other international organizations. So, and how to deal with it? Yes, we do need a comprehensive approach when we deal with terrorists. But the thing was, when we actually had the dialogue process to solve this terror issue, then PKK's Syrian arm, PYD, YPG, they became an operational partner to the United States in fight against Daesh. So this gave PKK another wave of encouragement or a new source of legitimacy to resort back to terror in Turkey. So that's very problematic. So when we talk about terror or terrorist organizations, we have to have a categorical approach, and we should not use one terrorist organization against another terrorist organization. We should not cooperate with terrorist organizations. Dialogue, maybe. Comprehensive approach, yes, but don't cooperate with them. Don't take them as partners in any kind of business that you are doing with. So this is what we went through, and PKK increased its terrorist acts within Turkey, especially more than last 1 year now. It costs us hundreds and hundreds of civilian lives as well as officials' lives. So it is a regional issue now, and it does need an international approach. So no country alone nowadays can deal with any terror organization alone, because terror organizations are now cross-border. It is intranational. It is international. So we need to see that this also needs an international cooperation. So no country should feel lonely when it is time to fight against terror organizations. And we are kind of feeling lonely in our fight against PKK nowadays. They are their operation partner with the US, and they have their activities in many, many countries in the European Union. They are approached with sympathy, empathy, defense on the country. And I think solidarity is very important here, and we need to have a stronger cooperation, collaboration when we talk about terror nowadays. And unless we do this, it is very easy. And one organization that you cooperate today could be an enemy for you following months or years. So, and I think also we have done a lot in terms of making Turkey a country where differences can live together in peace. And our history, actually, when we look at this region overall, and when we look at Turkey, many, many cities are multicultural cities, multi-ethnical cities, multi-religious cities. And it's very important to preserve this aspect of diversity, city by city, country by country, and having values and ideals which are above ethnicity, which are above any religious sect or something like that, is something that we need to go through.
So we are going to have, I think, tomorrow, if I am not mistaken, a session on terrorism. But one of the big problems, of course, is that there is no universally agreed definition of terrorism. Even in the UN system, they have never agreed on a definition of terrorism. And we know a number of people once considered to be terrorists who received the Nobel Prize for Peace. So it's a quite a complex situation, but I will give the floor to Mr. Laïchoubi for short intervention, and unfortunately, and then we will have to perhaps time for one more question. S'il te plaît, brièvement, parce qu'il faut être très très succinct là.
Merci. L'Algérie a une présence très forte et continue dans les institutions africaines et elle a régulièrement fait l'Algérie a une présence, Laïchoubi, ancien ministre algérien académicien. L'Algérie a une très forte présence dans les institutions africaines et elle a souvent choisi le choix de la résolution des conflits et des crises par l'approche politique, que ce soit en Somalie, que ce soit en Érythrée, que ce soit en Libye et ailleurs. Je voudrais avoir votre avis à ce titre. Comment voyez-vous le dossier libyen? Quelle est votre approche? Et également, quelle est votre approche de l'Afrique du Nord d'une manière générale et de l'Afrique? Et je vous remercie.
I'm afraid I was able to catch the translation only in the middle. If you'd like to summarize the question. Okay. Well, actually what I said for Middle East in terms of coexisting, in terms of having the multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious societies is very much valid for North Africa as well. You mentioned Libya. Well, we have relatively more successful examples, but also worse examples. Well, starting from Egypt, unfortunately, there was a military coup, and an elected president is now in jail, and there is a different kind of an administration right now in Egypt. And when we look at Tunisia, maybe it's a more successful example, having a good transformation, still with issues, but still a better example. But in case of Libya, it's very unfortunate because of the very divided nature of the society, and also very divided nature of politics, different powers acting with each other. But I think in the international community, the UN has played a very constructive role for Libya, and the political agreement, the Libya political agreement, which all the many countries, the international community has agreed on, has to function more and more. And we have to side with the legitimate. When I say legitimate, when whatever the international community has agreed on, the structures, the new councils, the new administrative structure needs to be supported more and more by the international community. And also Daesh, unfortunately, in Libya is still a player over there. Hopefully, we will see a phasing out of Daesh. But when we look at the root causes of many of these terror organizations like Daesh, we also see alienation, we see exclusion, we see oppression. So no group, no sect, no ethnicity should have any kind of dominance over the others. We should target for governance in countries which truly reflects the composition of the society, so that the will and the aspirations of the people will be reflected in how the countries will be governed. And external support is very, very important, because sometimes just the domestic dynamics of a country will not allow a successful solution. I think it's a big duty, I think, for European Union and countries like US and others to consult more and also have more of a unified approach. And if every country looks from its national perspective and national interest perspective to Libya or other countries in North Africa, I don't think there will be a healthy solution anytime soon. So I think it's a very, very big duty for the European Union and the US, just stripping off from the national interests for a while and coming together and what is the best for Libya and other countries, and what's the best for people of Libya. Because at the end of the day, if there is a lack of stability, if there are security issues, this will hit the neighborhood. Sometimes it is in the form of refugees, like we are observing Syria or other North African, Syria or North African countries. Many refugees are trying to reach Europe and causing huge social and economic issues, or terrorism. I think the most immediate spillover effect of difficulties on those countries are refugees and terrorism. And no country is immune. So it does need a lot of communication, cooperation, collaboration when it comes to have solutions. And the solutions at the end of the day need to be political solutions. The military solutions alone, if it is just a military perspective, is not long-lasting. It's not a sustainable solution most of the time. And for Libya and for other countries, having good political targets and international community working together very closely with supranational values and ideals rather than narrow national interests. I think that is going to be important.
Thank you. Unfortunately, time is running out, so we will take one last question. That will be Dorothée Schmidt, and then we have to stop, unfortunately.
Merci Thierry. My name is Dorothée Schmidt. I'm following Turkey at IFRI. My question would be, how do you assess the cost of the coup, the economic cost of the coup? How does it affect the stability of the Turkish state, especially vis-à-vis some areas such as the judiciary I'm particularly interested in? And do you think there's a chance that death penalty would be voted back into the Turkish law, and for what purpose?
Well, unfortunately, the Gülenists, the followers of Gülen, infiltrated many state units, but especially the judiciary, in terms of judges and prosecutors, were one of their most important targets. And we are estimating that about 30 to 40% of the judges and prosecutors were under the direct influence of the organization. And now we are trying to solve the problem through, again, our own judicial system. So, yes, many judges and prosecutors were laid off because of the fact that when it is time to decide, we are not sure if they are going to decide by the constitution, by the law, and by their conscience, or are they going to decide by the orders that they get from Pennsylvania. We cannot be sure. So in order to make sure that the judges and prosecutors really do the job that they are supposed to do, we have to be sure that they are able to act independently and they are able to act without any influence from here and there. And they should also feel empowered to do the right things. So thinking about the judicial system, which is 30 to 40% under the influence, and stripping off these people from the system and dealing with the problem with the rest of the judges and prosecutors, it's not an easy process. So we have been hiring many new judges and prosecutors, young lawyers, which are now being trained and put into the system. But it's going to take time, and this is not going to be flawless. But it's a big effort, a massive, massive effort right now going on to go back to normal with our judicial system, to go back to normal with our security units. The death penalty, yes, it is now in the agenda of the country, but no proposal has come yet to the parliament, and we don't know about what kind of a proposal it will be, if it will be or not, the timing. Those are all unknown, but it is now in the public domain, and it is now in the agenda, but nothing concrete about how it will progress from now on. We will see it, but it will be a democratic procedure that we will follow. We know how it is and how important of a subject it is, not only for our European Union friends. It is also important, very important for our own country and also our own citizens. But you have to remember that we went through a big trauma, a coup attempt, and this was just 4 months ago, not decades ago, and it's very fresh, and the influence of this on our public is still huge. And we have to see how things will evolve.
Well, unfortunately, we have to stop here. I want to thank you. I want to thank you again also, Mr. Davutoglu, for his intervention this morning. Turkey is a very important country for the international system overall, particularly, of course, in the European continent, in the Middle East. And I very much hope that next year, the next WPC, we could spend more time perhaps to talk with our Turkish friends. And I hope that the global situation will have improved by then. So thank you very much again. Please don't leave the room. Well, you're going to applaud him in a second, but don't leave the room, because each time we are losing 10 minutes, and that put the schedule under jeopardy. And also, I would like to remind you that there is a studio, WPC TV, room number 6 outside, and our journalists would like to interview many of you, so they will probably get in touch with you. So thank you very much, Ali, and now we applaud you.